And then he says, وَكَذَلِكَ تَخْلِيلُ الْأَصَابِعِ. Also the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to do تَخْلِيلُ الْأَصَابِعِ. He used to do this. So when you wash your hands, to do that is the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But in one case it becomes mandatory. Okay? When does it become mandatory? If you can't get the water in between your fingers or your toes. Doing takhleel, you can also do it in between your toes. This is also the sunnah, not just your hands, but you can also put it between your toes. It becomes mandatory. Let's just say, for example, if you have chubby toes and the flesh is preventing the water reaching in between your toes. In that case, it becomes a must. A qaida, a principle that we learn in usul al-fiqh is إذا كان الواجب لا يتم إلا به فهو واجب. If you can't fulfill an act that is mandatory except by doing something, then that something becomes wajib as well. And that something becomes wajib as well. Let me give you guys an easier example. Going to the masjid, it's an obligation, right? Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam commanded a blind man to answer the call of prayer. Is it possible for me to go to the masjid without walking there? I can't. So getting to the masjid would become wajib because I can't fulfill the obligation of praying in the masjid except by walking there or by taking a car. Even though in within itself walking to the masjid or taking a car to the masjid is not something that is mandatory. But I can't fulfill the obligation of praying in the masjid except by walking there. So that becomes mandatory as well. So we know, my brothers and my sisters, that washing the feet is an obligation. And we have to make sure that every part of that foot or whatever else that we have been told to wash is fully washed, and then the water flows on that part of the body. Even, my brothers and my sisters, if there is the size of a nail on your foot that hasn't been washed, that will render the washing of the feet to be what? Invalid. And if you continue like that and you finish your wudu becomes invalid. And if you prayed like that, that will render your wudu being invalid as well. Sorry, your salah being invalid as well. And you would have to go and redo everything again. I hope that is clear, my brothers and my sisters. Okay? We have the hadith of Anas Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, رأى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رجلا وفي قدمه مثل الظفر لم يصبه الماء فقال ارجع فأحسن وضوءك. Narrated by Abu Dawud. Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he saw a man. Okay? And on his feet was the size of a nail that wasn't washed. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told him to go back and do his wudu again properly. In another narration we are told وعلى قدمه قدر الدرهم لم يصبه الماء. That on his feet was the size of a coin that wasn't washed. فأمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعيد الوضوء والصلاة. He commanded him to repeat his wudu and likewise the salah. Yes, my brothers and my sisters, even if it is a little bit, you would have to make sure that the water reaches every part. So going back to what I was saying earlier, if one has chubby feet and the only way that he's going to get the water in between his toes is by using his fingers, then him doing that becomes mandatory as well. Even though in itself, if the water can reach it, you doing this in between your toes is not something that is mandatory.
فيا سائلا عن منهج الحق يبتغي سلوك طريق القوم حقا ويسعد تأمل هداك.
How will you answer the questions on the Day of Judgment if you don't know the answers?
كان للحق يقصد نقر بأن.
This is why the hadith mentions that seeking knowledge is obligatory on every single Muslim. Knowledge is how you will survive that day. Knowledge is a Muslim's survival guide.
Assalamu alaikum. I've got a quiz for you. This quiz, very simple. 3 questions, inshallah ta'ala. Question number 1. What does Allah's name, Allah, mean? deen. Question number 2. What is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's full name? The third question is, when you go to the toilet and when you're doing tahara and you're using tissue paper to wash yourself, what is the minimum number of tissue paper wipes that you must wipe yourself with as a bare minimum that you have to do? Simple questions, right? If you have the answer to all three, then that means inshallah ta'ala you know Allah to some extent, you know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to some extent, and you know Islam to some extent. But if you became confused with these very basic questions, then as a brother, I have to ask you right now to really just take a step back and pause. These are basic things that are obligatory for every single Muslim to know. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Talab al-ilm faridatun ala kulli muslimin." Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon every single Muslim, one Muslimatin, and every single Muslim woman. You need to know this stuff. Allah created you to know this stuff. What is the evidence Allah created you to know this stuff? He created you so that you can worship Him alone, as He said in Surah Al-Dhariyat. How can you worship Him without knowing who He is? And how can you worship Him without not knowing how to worship Him? The study of Aqeedah and the study of fiqh. Take out 1 year of your life, part-time, just 4 hours a week to learn about the absolute basics of your deen. We have a program starting, it's called the Muslim Survival Guide. It is what the title insinuates. It's a guide that will show a Muslim how to survive. Survive what? The questioning within the grave and the questioning on the Day of Judgment, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah, you're going to learn the basics of your deen. You want to carry on after that? Fantastic. But if all you want to do is take out this, at least you've got the basics. Now, it is a 1 year program and it's being taught not just by myself, but multiple knowledge college teachers. We have 2 classes. In between the 2 classes, we have myself, Ustad Yassin, we have Ustad Abdul Ahad, and others. You can check on the page in the description below by scrolling down to see who the teachers are. We'll be teaching you, connecting with you personally, teaching you live. It's not just going to be audio and video. No, you will actually be communicating with us, inshallah ta'ala, in a class. But I must bring something to your attention. The spaces are extremely limited. So I'm really excited to have you on board the Muslim Survival Guide. Don't let shaitan get in the way right now. Just commit. For 1 year, 38 weeks, learn about your deen. And take that space before someone else takes it. And that's it. You're going to be with the Knowledge College teachers throughout the academic year. Sign up at the link below. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.